Now, if you've ever read about people in crisis online and hoped you could help, you are in luck. Facebook has launched Community Help. That's a way to put your money where your thoughts and prayers are. Joining us to talk about it is Josh Constine, editor-at-large for TechCrunch. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So Community Help doesn't just let you send money to people or organizations in need. You can help with shelter or food or even transportation. How does it work?
So normally when there's a crisis in the world, like a natural disaster or some kind of, like an earthquake or a flood, people flock online using Facebook's safety check to tell friends and family that they're safe, that they're okay. But now Facebook is adding a new page to the safety check, which lets you actually offer people nearby help. And if you're one of those victims of the crisis, you can ask for help. So that includes finding things like food or shelter, pet supplies, baby supplies, transportation, and being able to offer someone real help rather than just sending your thoughts and prayers is a big deal, because so much of the passion and sympathy and empathy that comes out online after these crises goes unharnessed.
So these people that you're helping, are they strangers? Are they your Facebook friends? I mean, sometimes your Facebook friends could be virtual strangers, but who is it that you're connecting with?
Yeah, it's going to be strangers that are in your local community. And for that reason, there is a little bit of a safety concern because, if you're going to get some help, like staying in somebody's house, if your house is flooded, you're going to want to make sure you know who they are. So Facebook's putting education in the product to let you know that you should check out their profile, make sure they look legitimate. And Facebook's not going to allow brand new accounts or anything that they find suspicious or anyone that they think might be a little risky to use the product. So it should be safe, or at the very least do more harm than it hurts.
And this
do more help than it hurts.
Right, thankfully. And this is about targeting or kind of finding people to help on more of an individual one-on-one basis. Is there any way to kind of broaden that out to groups of people, or is it just specifically this person needs my help out of this long list of people, I choose to help them?
Yeah, Facebook's trying to match you to individual people. There's certainly lots of opportunities to get involved, like volunteer or join groups, and that's already going on Facebook. But really what they saw was that people from afar were donating, but a lot of times people don't need money. What they need is a place to stay tonight, or they need a ride to the hospital to visit a family member. They need something, they need real help right this moment. And that's not something that people were getting before. And I really challenge other social media platforms to look at this model and see what they can do. Twitter, for instance, it's the home of outrage and sympathy when something bad happens, but that doesn't really go anywhere. And so I want to see more social media platforms following Facebook's lead here and going out and doing something that's good for the community and organizing people to allow good to happen through their networks.
Yeah, I agree. So Safety Check, this was born out of Safety Check, and Safety Check has had some issues with people criticizing, as many of the things Facebook does are criticized for good and bad reasons. At the beginning, it was, they said they were going to help in a disaster, and really what people found was that they were only helping people in certain types of the world, and not other parts of the world. So how does Facebook really decide what is a disaster, what is considered a crisis, or are they not the ones deciding this?
Yeah, that was a big problem before. The safety check was always handled manually by Facebook. So they had to watch in the world to see if something bad happened, then choose to manually trigger the safety check and pick who it was applied to. But Facebook's completely overhauled it to reduce the human interaction, make it more streamlined, and make it much more scalable. So now what it does is it waits for global crisis reporting agencies to tell it that something bad has happened and give the crisis a name. And this makes sure that there's no fake news turning into safety checks. Because that's a really big problem, and it could really scare people if something fake turned into a safety check. After that, they're basically going to Facebook will look for people in the affected area that are Facebook posting about this issue. And if they see enough people are having trouble and talking about this crisis, like an earthquake, then they'll trigger the safety check for the people in that area. And they'll message people and say, hey, you talked about this earthquake. Are you safe? And do you want to invite your friends to say that they're safe? And then once that all happens, then they get moved into this new community help feature. But the idea is to reduce human error and prevent from it being on Facebook, or being Facebook's responsibility to choose what is and isn't a crisis. And also, by using these international reporting agencies, they're going to be able to help with safety checks in places all around the world, even a tiny plane crash in Eastern Europe.
Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago that those who aren't close, obviously, I'm here. This happens on the other side of the country. I cannot offer, shelter necessarily, but I can offer funds. I can, give to the cause. How do you do that through Facebook at this point? Is it just if people who aren't in the community, near the community, and want to get involved, do they just have to go through the standard outlets like Red Cross or whatever, or does Facebook help to facilitate that?
Yeah, Facebook now actually offers fundraising and donate buttons through its website. It saw through the ALS challenge that tons of people wanted to contribute and help out, but they often weren't sure, like, where do I mail a check? What is the actual website I go to donate? And so Facebook built a product that lets you put a donate button right in the status updates. And you can choose that just like you would add a photo to a post. You can choose to add a donate button. And if there's a big cause that you really want to rally support for, you can start a whole fundraising page through Facebook. There's a little tab, a little bookmark in the left-hand rail if you're on desktop, or in the more inventory box if you're on mobile. And you can set up a whole fundraiser page and invite friends to come and join and donate. And it's actually doing a lot of good. And they saw millions of dollars raised for the ACLU just recently, for Syrian refugee relief. And it's going really far. The ALS challenge generated $200 million in donations worldwide. And Facebook thinks that there's a huge opportunity to do that for more big causes.
Yeah, I really like what you were saying about just the outrage that is on so much of social media, not going anywhere, but just into all our collective anxiety. So how could Twitter do something like this? Do you have any ideas how they might also use that rage and harness it into good?
Yeah, I think what they really could do is look at the hashtags and say this hashtag is associated with a crisis and may have an opportunity to generate donations. And so, a few years ago when there was the whole Justine Flacco, has Justine landed yet thing, where this woman made a very insensitive joke about AIDS in Africa, all of Twitter exploded making fun of her. But nobody was tweeting links to AIDS charities. Nobody was actually trying to help. Everyone was just being snarky. And I remember at the time I was really disappointed, and I started trying to tweet links to donation pages, but they just never got that kind of reach that the jokes and the snark does. And so I really think that Twitter should look at seeing how they can add a fundraising button or allow people to add one to their tweets when there's something important. But that also means they're going to have to go to the work of verifying these charities. Facebook has gone, and I think they've verified over 700,000 nonprofits that they think are worthwhile and are legitimate, that you can connect to through the donate buttons. And it's work, but Twitter is the place where people talk about what's going on in the world right at the minute it's happening, and that's when the passion is the highest. That's when there's the biggest opportunity to get things done on behalf of the world. So I really want to see these social networks harness the human spirit for positive good, not just clicktivism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If there was some way to turn that power of public shaming that Twitter is so good
I know, right?
into having someone in need sleep on your couch.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and they're not the only ones that can do this. I mean, YouTube has a big opportunity here as well, because people are often sharing videos related to the crises. Instagram is becoming an increasingly popular place to talk about real world events. Even though they have an algorithmic feed and it's all photos, it's still really important. And they don't allow links. And so it's even harder to galvanize support for a nonprofit or do donations from Instagram. But that they could definitely add a donate button, which would really get different rules than other kinds of links.
Sure.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on. I've followed your work at TechCrunch for a while, and I'm glad to finally get to talk to you. Josh is the editor-at-large at TechCrunch, and Josh Constine on Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, please. Thank you.